You may notice that there is a kind of player some people call a munchkin player in the tabletop role-playing game hobby. A munchkin player gets into the game, looks at character creation, and takes every benefit that they can get. And a lot of their choices are all aimed at the pluses, they can get for combat in the game. They won't care about the uniqueness of the character. They really don't even care about the idea of your story. They want to get in and be successful at the main area of the game, the one they'll spend a lot of time interacting with, and that's combat. And why would they care about combat in that way, say, like in Dungeons and Dragons? Because that's where the experience points are, that's where the treasure is. Incentive in a game is very important, because if we went over to other games, I could show you different types of munchkin players that might seem like they care about other elements than just combat. Well, they do in other games, but they'll still just make the character with this alternative set of benefits towards a different area of the game, because that game, the incentive is towards something else. But in a way, they're doing the same thing they would with the combat character. They're taking every benefit for socializing, or every this for that, right? Because incentive leans into this area. And most people you're encountering see what we're doing here as just a game. And you want to succeed at the game. How do you succeed? The incentive is letting you know how you succeed. So, what are we telling players? Hey, when you go to make a character in this game, we want you to sabotage yourself, and that's the respectable thing to do. Because in a way, that's what we're saying to them. It's go ahead and make this unique character. It doesn't have to be about the bonuses. And they look at you like it's a game. Like, why is it wrong to see it as bonuses? So, you got to understand incentive drives the players. Most players. Even players that are trying to be open-minded, you'll see they can get guilty of leaning into getting the bonuses that are going to help them with the focused part of the game, where the experience is, where all this stuff is. You're going to see them lean in towards that. So when I say munchkin player, I don't just mean focused on combat. I just mean they're pigeonholing themselves into an area where the game has, in a way, pigeonhole success, right? Like D&D puts all the experience and the treasure where the combat is. Okay, well, a lot of players aren't going to think talking to that guy over there is going to be any helpful. Let's go win the fight, and I got a great character to do that. We'll get that great treasure. We'll collect our experience, and at the end of this, we'll be able to take a fucking group photo because we kicked some ass. Here is my advice. After 30 plus years as a game master, here is how I get players, at least my best effort, and it has worked. This is how I get players to avoid being a munchkin. Well, first, easiest way to avoid that is to get my Neo TTRPG System, which gives you incentive in all kinds of different areas. So it's going to make the player's head spin, and I hope through that spinning of the head that they see so many areas where they can gain that they spread themselves out a bit more without making a super munchkin character. That's the aim. But say, outside of my Neo TTRPG system, how can you, the game master with any game, get players to accept sabotaging themselves to a degree? You got to make it that they're not doing that. For example, in D&D, I would make status in any place an important thing. Like, the better relationships you have, the better you're known, the easier it is to make deals, all this other stuff. And then I make sure that some of the bigger successes can be found in the area of socializing. And that failure there will be obvious, it will hurt you, you will have an idea of what you lost. And then I make sure to do something a game master can do. I give out experience for socializing if you do it well. I don't mean you just do socializing well. I mean, the outcome of your socializing is beneficial to your character and the group. So anytime you're benefiting yourself or the group through your socializing, like you're achieving goals, I give experience. And here's another thing I do. If you socialize right, say the right things, you can get to some treasure just by talking to people. And I'll make that a necessary thing. And sometimes I don't put too much treasure with all the fighting and combat and monsters. So players start realizing that all their wealth won't come from just fighting. And they can get treasure from talking. And it actually hurts them in the game to fail in the area of socializing. Now, you can't make it like it's character death, but you can make it brutal, where the adventure forward is going to be much more brutally hard, because they didn't achieve getting certain information, or they didn't achieve getting a right to get a pass by here. And it has to be a stickler thing where you put it in their face for failure, you let them know they failed, because you're letting players know, you're not doing this to abuse them, you're letting players know that not just combat is important in your game, right? You need to make it that there's incentive with other things. There might be treasure, there could be experience points, and no matter what the game says, you can choose to give XP for good socializing, right? Stuff like that. You can do all that, so understand it's all about creating incentive. That's how you get most players going in a certain direction. When you spread out that incentive, it makes them spread out a bit more, right? Because they realize just having the combat benefits isn't the only thing that's good, and actually it can hurt them, and if you make it this way, it can hurt them not being able to socialize or do some things in different areas that would make the character a more creative character. So, we sit back hoping the players just want to be that way, right? Like, it's even if the game has all the incentive towards only combat, it's like, hey, player, why weren't you more open-minded and creative? It's like, well, they're a player playing a game, right? I say this, is it really wrong to approach a game trying to get the benefits? Nobody would frown on you doing that in any other hobby of games. Video games, board games, wouldn't matter. But I mean, you get to like a specific type of tabletop role-playing game, like say the D&D, and there's an expectation that you do something deeper, but there's no incentive whatsoever in the game, like in the books, that tells you that that's necessary. Actually, the books pretty much tell you that being better at combat is good. So it feeds your wanting, of the benefits by telling you about them. This kicks ass. There's nothing in the book that's saying, don't do that. It's just you hear people around you that might complain if you go down the road of making a character that's nothing but benefited just for fighting, right? I would just say this. If you take all the benefits for fighting in the game I'm going to run, say, of D&D, well, you're going to get really hurt in all these other areas that can be very important. And all you had to do was spread just a bit of your character out a bit more. Get a more creative character, but in the process you get some other bonuses for some other areas that are going to help you outside of the combat. And I can make those areas brutal, tough, and everything else. Like, it's really not good to fail here just the same way it would be not good losing that fight. So, Game Master, tie experience to other things, not just combat. Tie treasure to other things. Like, even socializing, saying the right thing to somebody might make them give something to you. And not just some meaningless little thing, but make it like it's the type of fucking treasure you would get off a monster. Right? And don't do it like it's, I can't really give you that type of treasure here, you're only socializing. Don't look at the game that way, because you want players to take that part of the game serious. So you gotta take it serious like you would combat. Is it acceptable to put the treasure over in the combat? Yeah, it's acceptable to put it over there. But you gotta make the socializing challenging. They can't just say something at ease and get through, because then you defeat the purpose. The point of the combat, and the reason they put the incentive stuff behind that, is it's meant to be challenging. Now, a Munchkin player can come in and just crush it through, right? That's what we're trying to avoid to a degree. But it's, you get what I'm saying? If you make the socializing part of the game easy, then there's no incentive at all. And what? Make it easy. If you do that, then don't take my advice. Don't put treasure behind easy. Make it challenging. Make it like you're writing out an NPC. Put a few notes in, like if they don't say something like this, he will not open that thing. If they don't do something like this, so it won't matter how charismatic they are. It won't matter this. It won't matter this. It might be a certain statement. Or it might be the charisma part, but you don't want to cheapen out stuff that's important to a simple dice roll, where that's one dice roll and whoo, they get the treasure. It's the easiest way to get players to look at the game properly, in my opinion, because you'll have a lot of innocent people that come into the hobby, nice people that are not your typical munchkin type players. They just naturally get into the game and instinctively look for the bonuses, right? So by the time they get the character to you, you're like, well, that's a munchkin character. But now, if you went into their mind, you would know right away that they have no bad intent. They're not trying to cheat the game. They went in thinking, it's a game. Oh, that gives me a +2. Cool, I'll take that. Get it, gives me a... And next thing you know, you got that munchkin character. Because most people look at what we're doing as a game, and they're not wrong. It is a game, right? So I think it's on us game masters and game designers, right, to make a game that is going to give the incentive. You know, it's... I really focused with in that area on my Neo TTRPG system, was to make sure I don't put the incentive, the XP and all that just behind combat, right? Like, it just, make sure the rewards are spread out. So it's not all here. You can't just get all your rewards going here. That won't be any good to you. And the game is going to tell you this. So it's, I hope, a lot easier. And from my game testing and experience, it's a lot easier to get players to naturally want to spread out benefits or what they're picking out. Because other areas of the game are going to be clearly important to what's going on next. And failing in other areas outside of combat can be just as, you know, brutal as failing in combat, right? And if you do it right, they could even get trapped. There could be character death just in socializing wrong, right? That can all happen. And I try to really put my Neo TTRPG system there to make it help you with that incentive factor. So even if you're a new game master and you're not thinking about this stuff, I hope that if you run my Neo TTRPG system, that your players are more naturally inclined to make a more creative character. Because again, the game has spread out incentive, right? And that will be clear for the player to see. And it will tell them that all these other areas are truly important to the game. And that they'll be rewarded for taking the time out to pick something that aids them in that area of the game. Like, there's an actual, again, incentive system, an XP system that directly spells it out for them. If you get good in this area of the game outside of combat, that's just as beneficial to you as combat. But most games don't have that. So what I would tell you is, you know, I learned this in the old school. You do what you want to a degree, but that's true. So as a game master, once you realize the incentive drives a lot of players towards something you don't want, it's time to create new incentive. Make it that the socializing is challenging. If they don't get the thing, a lot harder. They don't get the information for the easy path, they're taking the hard path. And the hard path, it has to be a constant thing where you make it where they're losing out on something for failing socializing. And even with your traps and your puzzles and everything else in the game outside of combat, there has to be like losing at this casually loses your treasure, loses that important thing, loses that connection for the next place. But it's so brutal that players will feel the loss of that thing. Right? Doesn't mean they can't continue with their characters, but you make things so important that, hey, if they don't say the right thing to this guy, you know, the difference with going up here and going around here, you know, that's a huge difference. So, but by saying the right thing to the person, they get the information to get them through the easier path, and maybe even to get them to a special treasure, right? You could even have, side treasure where, hey, it's not really that they're going to ever get off the main adventure path that you've set up, but there might be some secret locations or relics and treasure that can only be gotten if they socialize and talk to people and get somewhere. And those powerful magical items or unique items can't be gotten on the adventure path. It has to be something where you're willing to speak, get off the path. And without those items, the path is a lot harder, right? So again, it's all about creating incentives. And if your players don't see or experience the potential incentives or loss of them, they'll keep going back to making the character for combat. So that's my advice, right? Because I see so many people wondering, how do they fix this? And I'm like, well, I don't think it's an easy fix. I think it's just something on the Game Master's end where if they want players to care about this, they need to care about this. But they need to care about it in a way that creates the incentives for their players. Not like, oh, hey, I really like socializing. Well, do you put any treasure there? No. Is it a big loss if players don't talk to that person? No, but it would have been cool. Well, dude, you need more than that, right? It is a game. And that's where I say stop penalizing players because they're competing at a game. Just accept that this is a game. So instead of us criticizing players for their view on this, why not just create a game that gives them the type of incentives that moves them away from such a simple-minded approach? And hey, maybe the problem really is with the game. If all the rewards are behind one thing, like combat, maybe the game is the issue, not the players. Okay, I love you. For now, take care.